Hey, hey! I wanted to tell you a little bit about the 240 volt outlet that I installed in my garage several months ago. This is not a how to video, this is more of a get another person's perspective on the right way to do it, or another possible way to do it. I'm not going to say that my way is the best way or even right, but it did go pretty well. It's not bad. It's not too hard. Did all the work myself. Let me tell you a little bit about that now. I opted for the NEMA 1450 standard. It's a little bit of an older standard, but one, it was the standard when I was looking up what kind of plugs to add, what kind of outlets people were recommending. That was several years ago. And as I did more research, the current standard is NEMA 650, which is basically the same, but it has one fewer prong. And I thought that adapting from this to a NEMA 650, either by changing out the plug or getting a little adapter, 1 foot adapter cable, would be a little bit easier than getting than committing to a fewer conductor wire and then not being able to ever put in a NEMA 1450. So it was a little bit more future proof to do this. And NEMA 1450 has been a standard for a long time for RVs, and so I thought, maybe it's a little bit better. As you can see, I put it right next to the box, which I haven't seen a lot of other people do. It was actually this bottom circuit here. You can see it's a 50 amp circuit, and I did have to cut this really ugly hole in the wall. They had done some weird stuff when they built this. They had kind of had 2 layers of drywall to it kind of bowed out. I don't really understand it, so I replaced it with one, and it's not real pretty. I really need to just take that all out and just replace this entire wall of drywall, this little section here, and redo it. But that's a future project, which I'll probably never actually do. As far as the actual installation, it was pretty simple. I didn't cut this entire piece out initially. It was only a small section here to be able to get in there, maybe 6 inches or so, because I needed to cut a hole through a stud. There's studs on the other side of this box, as you could imagine. And so since I was going through that, I just needed to cut or drill a little hole in one stud there and feed the wire through. I believe it was 8-gauge wire that I used in there. I've got pictures that I can show you of what it looks like installed in the box. Pretty simple to do. That 8-gauge wire is pretty tough to work with. Three conductor, but there's also an additional ground. They kind of ignore the ground in the count. So it was a 3/8, I believe, or 8/3, whichever way. Look for 4 conductor wire, 1 ground, and three normal conductors to be able to handle both sides of your 120, and then wire it in. For my particular box, it's this kind of double circuit. You need to check what the standards are for your circuit. Most of the time, when you look at your breaker box, there'll probably be a high amperage circuit. This one above it is for the air conditioning unit. And so I was able to look at that. You can see that's a 60 amp circuit, whereas I only put in a 50 amp circuit. But because that's what the outlet is rated for, I didn't feel it was necessary to put in a 60 amp circuit. Also, 50 amps should be fast enough for any car charging, especially at home where you're probably going to have more than a few hours to charge it. I didn't want to go too big either, based on the entire box being a 200 amp circuit here for the whole box, so I didn't want to go too far beyond that. I did have some empty spots here, so I was able to just pop out the little covers like you see there and add in that. Pretty easy. As far as inspections go, yes, I looked up what I needed to do for the city that I live in. I'm in Texas, and the rules are that you can do the work yourself, or you can pay a licensed electrician to do it, but you can't have like a friend do it. You have to, if it's going to be somebody unlicensed, it has to be the homeowner. But with that, I was able to go and get a permit. It was not very much. I forget if it was like $25 or something like that, fairly nominal. And I was able to do the work myself. Part of the reason to do that is if something were to happen and your house was to, let's say, burn down, or you had any sort of fire, and they said, oh, that was a circuit that was put in and there was no permit, there was no inspection done on it, then you would be out of luck in getting the insurance company to pay for it. They would say that is not, that violates the terms of our agreement. And so I wanted to get it inspected, and I did. The permit actually comes with one inspection. It's basically you're getting the permit and you're kind of prepaying for the inspection when you finish the work. I was able to get the inspector to come out pretty quickly after I had it finished, and he looked at it. He didn't test the actual power for anything. He literally did a visual inspection of it, and it looked like all the wires were hooked up, checked everything. I had not closed it up yet. That way he could see how the wiring was run and everything, and he signed off on it and said it was good. I have the paper saying that it passed inspection, and so I was able to start using it, and it's worked great. I would definitely recommend installing your own, and you can put it this close. There was no concern at all from the inspector about having it this close to the box. So I cannot speak for your own laws where you live. All I can speak from is my experience, and this has worked pretty well for me. So what do you think about doing your own electrical work? Way too scary? Just a little too scary? It's definitely not something that I'm super comfortable with, but I've done enough outlet replacements and simple things like that, and I understand basically how electricity works. If the power's off, there's not a whole lot that can go wrong. And so turn the power off before you do anything, especially when it's something like this where you're having to, uncover all of the wiring for your whole house at the box. There's a lot of power running through that, so be very careful with it. If you're at all uncertain, just hire somebody to do it. It'll be a really good investment, but you could do it yourself. It's not complex, but you got to make sure you do it right and be careful. Use the right gauge wire. You can't just grab an extension cord and throw that in there. That would be very, very, very bad. Don't do that. But you know the drill. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, and you'll be notified when I put out a new video. But if you're here watching this, you probably don't want to see any of my other videos. You probably just wanted to see about what it's like installing your own 240 volt outlet. It's not bad. It's not bad. So have a good one. Be safe.